Hey, everybody, I'm John Kraska, Executive Director for Every Library and the Every Library Institute. It is Wednesday, February 12th. It is Library Lovers Week. It's our second night. This is our second event tonight on our second night of Library Lovers Week 2025. We're having big chats this week with authors and editors and illustrators and the publishing industry about the joy of writing, the culture of reading, what it means to intersect with your readers as a writer, intersect as readers with your authors too. There's a lot happening in the world right now around libraries and around reading and around free expression and the First Amendment. We want to have a conversation not only about those big issues, but also, like I said, like we're all in this together. Let's share the love. It's very important right now, I think, in our country to spend time remembering and reminding about the role that libraries have in our lives. So I'll be joined tonight by some wonderful authors who want to talk about their own books, talk about each other's books, and talk about that experience together in that culture of reading. In the meantime, though, I need to do a little commercial. It is Library Lovers Week, folks. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to put up a URL for you here. We're shilling for stickers. $5 a month, $3 a month, $10 a month in donor support helps us as the National Political Action Committee for Libraries get a lot done to support libraries and oppose censorship. In fact, if you donate, here's some lovely stickers you can choose for yourself. We'd love to send one out to you as a thank you. I've been saying all week, you can put it, if you're an 80s kid like me, on your jean jacket. You can put it on your laptop. You can put it on your notebook. You can give it to a kid who's going to be like, "Thanks, Mom," and stick it on your water bottle. However you want to put your sticker, share the love, and donate now if you could, please. LibraryLoversWeek.org. All right, that's my commercial. I'm bringing in these lovely people to share some time with us tonight to talk about writing and reading, about their genre work, and also just how much fun it is to meet their readers. I want to introduce you again, perhaps, to Sandra Brown, an icon of the thriller world. She's penned 76 New York Times bestsellers with over 80 million copies sold worldwide. Her gripping novels, translated into 34 languages, have captivated readers for decades, blending suspense, romance, and unforgettable characters. 4 of her works have been adapted into films, and in 2008, she was honored with the International Thriller Writers Thriller Master Award. And then Robyn Harding, the best-selling author, is hailed for her dark and daring psychological thrillers. She's mastered the art of shocking twists and complex relationships. With acclaimed novels like The Drowning Woman and The Party, Harding has earned a loyal following for her ability to unravel the secrets and lies that lurk beneath the surface. Her stories are gripping explorations of human behavior, crafted with precision and emotional depth. Robyn, it's so nice to meet you. Sandra, it's so nice to meet you too. And not to give it too much away, Robyn, because I'm going to put you in the green room in a minute. Sandra and I are going to chat, but Sandra did say your books are creepy in a really good way. So I'm looking forward to bringing you back in a little bit, okay? Cool? Thank you. Sandra, it's nice to be with you today. Thanks for taking some time with us. The mute button, you found it. We're good to go.
I found it. Thank you, John, for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's a real treat. I mean, the chance to be able to hang out for Library Lovers Day. I know that we've all got our library stories and our librarian stories potentially, and I'm dying to hear what yours is. But I want to get into talk about The Blood Moon first. Your next book coming out. You said it's March 4th.
March 4th.
You cannot be tired after 76 titles of a debut day. Are you excited as ever?
I am. In fact, I just got the box of hardcovers yesterday and opened them up for the first time and saw the real live book in print. And it really, I can't wrap my mind around, this is my 86th book.
86, my apologies. I said 76. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, no. 76 New York Times bestsellers.
Very good. Okay.
So, but it's a year's work, and it's like giving birth, because you anticipate for a year, and then you finally have that product in your hand and you see it in book form for the first time, instead of something on your screen of the computer or a manuscript, pages. And it never gets old. It really doesn't. The level of excitement is always the same.
That's
truly
really
is.
fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's the new car smell. There's also got to be the new book smell.
Right, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
So
I still like the old book smell though. You
there
know,
is something
go
about that,
into
isn't
a
it?
library and you have the old book smell. I still love that too.
Absolutely. And once in a while, you go to Abercrombie and Fitch, and you get that spray version of it too. It's like an eau de
Right, right,
toilette.
right. Yeah, I have a scented candle someone gave me, and it was the old book smell.
That's perfect. What a great gift. The So with the Blood Moon, what are your readers going to be expecting to encounter here?
Well, I think a trademark Sandra Brown is a suspense novel that is melded with a growing love interest. And it kind of, I've been credited more than I should be with combining those into, used to be the genres are very divided. And I and many of my colleagues and uh, that kind of ratcheted up the risks, the stakes in both genres.
Hmm.
If you have a suspense novel, the suspense and the tension is only heightened by the romantic tension because the people they come to care for each other. And so it's then becomes self-sacrificial. And therefore, you've got to solve the problem right now and keep this other person alive. And so I never saw that there should have been a separation between the two because to me, one just enriches the other. And so I think that's a trademark of a Sandra Brown thriller is that you're going to have two characters thrown together to solve a terrible trouble that you introduce as soon as you can, and you don't solve until as late as you can. And
Yes.
during that time, their relationship at first is often adversarial, but that sexual tension is going to build. So,
Mhm.
Kid Follett's book, Eye of the Needle, was so influential to me because when I read Eye of the Needle, he wrote espionage novels. That's how I came to know him. And when I read Eye of the Needle, I thought, whoa, this is one of the sexiest books I've ever read because it had that ingredient that I think is so essential, and it's the forbiddenness.
Yeah.
Uh, if it's easy for them to get together, you've got no story to tell. It has to
Right.
be difficult, and not just difficult, it has to be forbidden. And
Mhm.
certainly, when you've got a Nazi assassin and this woman who's married with a little child, and they're isolated, and the sexual tension between them just kept you just, your palms sweating every single page. I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to make my readers, heart pound and their palms sweat at the same time.
That's a fantastic goal.
Yeah,
the
well, and lofty because I don't think anybody could ever top Eye of the Needle or Ken Follett. But that's what I aspired to do when I set out writing suspense novel.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, the evolution of one's writing craft. I mean, you can't have written this most recent book the same way you wrote your first book. And you as
No,
no,
yeah.
you have to keep evolving as a writer.
You do. I think it's essential. And I go back and read, some of my earlier work and I cringe and I go, oh, but at the same time, they have my voice. They have
Mhm.
not, I'm sorry, not my Southern accent, but they have my voice. It sounds like me. I just wish I'd known to craft the stories better. And I think I've gotten better at that after, and yet every day when I go to this keyboard, I'm terrified.
Mhm.
I scale this wall of fear every single day that I'll never be able to come up with another story, another interesting character, another plot or a good villain. So it's like a challenge, and I think that it's death to any writer who doesn't have that fear factor, who rest on laurels, because if you get complacent about this, your reader's going to feel that. They're going to be the first ones to feel that complacency.
Well, you don't have the luxury of complacency in the kind of stories you write. I mean, the characters have to be strong. They have to be dynamic. There has to be something very authentic about them, because you're putting them into situations that never stop.
Yeah. Not every book is going to be as good as another book. Not every book is going to be an Academy Award winner, but I want to write books that the reader is pretty reliable in buying it and reading it, and it will be the best book that I could have written at that time. And I hope that they will know that I really did pour my heart and soul into it. I worked long hours on it. And I used to write, when I was back writing the romances, I wrote, 5 or 6 a year. Now I write 1 a year, and it takes that. It takes that. And if I want to have a life too, it takes a year.
Well, I think the commitment that you have to honoring your readers, I really admire that. It's not something that I hear from a lot of folks. I do a lot of author interviews these days, and I'm getting to know authors as they're thinking through what you said about fear. It's interesting, but also the way that you're honoring your readers. That it's not a formula to you, but it's a relationship. And how does it continue to develop over the years?
Yeah. And the other thing I try to do with each book is to do something I've never done before. With each book, there's one thing that I haven't ever done before. And I try to get, the challenge to keep myself on my toes. It's like, can I pull this off? And I try to kind of build that into every book so that I can say, gee, I don't know. And the one I'm writing now, which is really, I took a character from Blood Moon. Readers, pay attention to Mitch in Blood Moon, because he's the hero of the book I'm working on now. And the plot is very convoluted. And I thought, if I can pull this off, though, it'll be a great surprise at the end.
Do you have
it's hard,
Do you have do you have one that you can brag on a little bit, though? One from that you could think to yourself, man, I was so smart about that one. Is there one that really you love to brag on?
It's the one you're thinking about buying. That was my best book. Oh my gosh, you picked the best one. No, there has to be a little bit of salesmanship in there,
No, Sandra, that's really great. The opportunity here to talk a little bit about libraries too, if you don't mind. Like you're on tour every so often. You have a lot of Zoom, tours, but in person too. I assume libraries are part of your itinerary.
Yeah, I go to St. Louis Library this year for Blood Moon in a few weeks. Yeah,
that's a nice venue. So when you're meeting readers these days, at a place like a library, I hope it's a nice interaction. I hope you're having fun out on the road.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's I think, and I know Robyn can probably attest to this, that in a way your book is your performance. It's what you have devoted your talent, although I really don't like that word, but your talent, your time, your blood, sweat, and tears to. And unlike, an actor who completes the play and gets applause, you have to wait like a year or a year and a half before your readers react to something that you spent a year's time on. And so when you do meet readers and they come up and they bring a book that was special to them and they tell you the story behind their reading it. I read this book when my husband was terminally ill, and I would sit by his, in his hospital room, and this is the book that got me through. And then I read another one, and then I read another one, or this book meant so much to me because there's an autistic child in the book, and I have an autistic child, and the way that you portrayed that and the sensitivity that you afforded it. I mean, these are the stories that just make you want to to cry,
Mhm.
when you're there with that person, and it means so much for them to meet me. And I
Mhm.
feel that way, like when I met Ken Follett, or when I met Stephen King, or when I met
Mhm.
John
Mhm.
Grisham. I was a blithering idiot. I was just so, overwhelmed. And so those tributes, rather than make me feel, really like heady about it, I feel very humbled about
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
because I've been given the opportunity, blessed with the opportunity to do what I love to do, and to be able to do it for a long time, and
Mhm.
to make a living out of it. And not everybody is as happy in their career and their work as I am.
That's
It's
fantastic.
the best job in the world, except for the writing.
Well, except for the writing, they always say, do what you love and the money will follow, right? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
it's supposed to.
I'm
Yeah.
doing what I love,
Yeah.
definitely.
Can I ask one more question about your process, and then we'll bring Robyn in, if that's okay?
Yes. Well, my process is basically, I don't really start with an outline. I start with,
That's what I was going to ask. Are you in it to win it,
no,
or
no.
Mhm.
I think if I did an outline, I would have already written the book. I would have
Oh,
told the story. And I think the compulsion to come to work every day, wait to see what's going to happen, is not only masochistic, but it's also, it keeps it alive for me. I let the story, I know where my characters are going. I know what Terrible Trouble is going to be. I build in some spikes, but that I know have to come at pivotal points in the book. But
mhm.
actually, some of the best plot twist I've ever had shocked the hell out of me. I
Wow.
mean, I didn't see it coming. And it
Mhm.
was like, oh gosh, they're so much smarter than I am.
Mhm.
And I know that sounds silly, but it's really the truth. And I think that sometimes you just have to let it, it's a stream of consciousness that you're not even, if I take myself out of it, it happens better than if I strive for
You
it.
know,
So I let the story evolve.
well, you sound like a performer, but your audience is a year later. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
really beautiful, Sandra. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
I,
thank you, John.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna put you in the green room for a minute while we bring
I'm
Robyn up.
anxious to hear what Robin has to say.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then we'll let you all talk together in a minute. Okay?
okay.
Thank you, Robyn. I'm gonna bring you up, and I'll move Sandra back. Thank you for hanging out in the green room for
Well, that
us.
was fascinating. I'm a little bit depressed now because I thought maybe by the time I'd written 86 books, I wouldn't feel so scared. But Sandra said she's still scared.
Well, I mean, I said, do what you love, and the money will follow. The other adage is feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Yes, yes, that's
Yes.
very true. We
Yeah.
got through.
So, Robyn, you're joining us today to talk about libraries and love and libraries and all that kind of fun stuff. But also, I want to talk about your new book, The Haters. And could you take us through a little bit about it first?
Yeah, so there's a big poster of the hardcover
I
behind me.
love it. I wasn't sure if that was an AI generated image, but that's real life, huh?
No, and I had a party. I had a book launch party, and I
Mhm.
had this made for it. But it's coming out in trade paperback on March 4th.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's really a book for readers. It's about a writer, and as much as Sandra is so right in what a gift this career is, there is a dark side to it, and this book is all about that dark side, about social media and our accessibility as a person putting yourself out there. And some of the things in the book have actually happened to me to a lesser degree, thank God, because it gets pretty crazy in the book. But it is a different time with social media and the way we do connect. And there's the beautiful side, like Sandra talked about, like going to a library and having readers come up to you and just say how much it meant to you. And it's incredible. But every now and then there's somebody who is triggered or whatever, upset
Mhm.
about something you wrote. And the book is about that dark underbelly of putting your work out into the world.
Well, there's a real bravery to that, I think. I mean, to have a conversation about the conversation is not an easy thing to do. I mean, the dark side of what you're writing about, human nature, family dynamics, social experiences. I mean, are you doing it because it makes you uncomfortable, or what's drawing you into those themes?
Yeah, so I always there's always something that just gives me this little, like I call it my spidey sense or whatever, like a little premise or a kernel of something where I'm like, oh, I feel I need to know more. I need to dive in, as even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's going to be upsetting. I feel like if I want to dive in, there's going to be readers who want to dive in as well, right? So it could be something I see in the news or something I experience or a friend tells me about, and there's just a little something there that I think I want to go deeper into the story.
I don't want to put it like this, but I'm trying to find the right vocabulary. It's not moral ambiguity. It's the conflict between good and evil.
Yeah. And I love that. I love the way you're saying that, because I feel like every person is morally ambiguous to a certain extent. And I love characters that you're sort of rooting for the bad guy and you're sort of angry at the good guy. And you're, I think the nuances that make up people and relationship dynamics, that's what I really love. And I really like, as you said to Sandra about like, almost like you're putting on a play, like when I'm writing, I really inhabit those characters. I always do different perspectives, different points of view. Mm-hmm. And I swear if there was a video camera on me, I bet you my posture changes and everything, right? Like I'm really...
If you're with one character, you're with another character?
Yes, really? Exactly. I'm like, I feel like I'm an actor inhabiting these roles as I write, and I feel different. I mean, it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's a really interesting process to be... Mm-hmm. Exploring, being in the head of somebody who's doing something really awful, but they have reasons, right? Like yes. That says to them.
Yeah, the challenge of writing a challenging character, so not to call Sandra out, but the feeling, the fear. I mean, do you approach the keyboard with some trepidation sometimes about the people that you're writing about?
Once I'm at the keyboard, I'm usually pretty in my comfort zone, right? By the time I get there, I think it's that moment that maybe Sandra was referring to, of the next idea and the next, you're under contract and you're like, okay, people really love that book and now I got to follow it up, and can it be as good? And, doing something fresh every time. Like, yeah. And I can't imagine with Sandra having so many books. I have 13, I think. And mm-hmm. I'm already going, okay, keep it fresh, keep myself challenged, keep myself interested.
Mm-hmm. So let me rephrase the question. I was trying to get to whether or not, so sometimes you surprise yourself as a writer, Yeah. Do you ever scare yourself as a writer?
So I always have said I never scare myself as a writer because I have the control.
Sure.
I have all the control of what's going to happen next. The only book that has ever scared me is The Haters. Okay. Because it was so incredibly personal to my own experience. And mm-hmm. so when I was publishing it, when it was coming out into the world, I thought, oh my God, I've just put out a blueprint for my worst nightmare, wow. Right? Into the world. Like the biggest nightmare for any writer to experience. Mm-hmm. And I've had, like I said, little taste of unpleasant things over the years. I've been doing this for 20 years. So I felt really uncomfortable and really, really kind of scared.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I don't mean to get into it that heavy, but I appreciate you sharing that with us, because it's a powerful book. And I think that any reader who wants to spend some time with you as an author, somebody who's spent time with you before as an author, but somebody who's a new reader for you, I think he's going to be thrilled with it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a look at the dark side of it all.
Exactly. So we need to talk a little bit about the light side of things. I want to come around to the Library Lovers Week theme, and let me bring in Sandra again, if that's okay. I want to talk a little bit about this whole space. So Sandra, let me bring in the stage here.
Hi. I just wanted to say everything Robyn said about the woo-woo, totally get that. And one thing you said about the villain, your villains have reasons for doing things, and somebody a whole lot smarter than I read it one time. They said the villain is the hero of his own story. That they're the hero of his or her own story, and that I thought that was a great way of putting it. In their mind, everything is justified.
Yeah.
Everything they do is justifiable. So I thought that was a real. When you said that, I thought, yeah, read that somewhere one time. It's a great point to bring out.
Great quote. Definitely.
No, you're both putting out. So Sandra, you're coming out trade paperback on March 4th.
No,
I'm sorry. Your new book's coming out on March 4th. Robyn, you're coming out trade paperback on March 4th. What's up with March 4th? What a big day!
You're March 4th.
Mardi Gras, and it's Mardi Gras this year.
Oh,
it is Mardi Gras. So we got a lot of things going on. Yeah,
that's fantastic. So when it comes to Library Lovers Week, which is the historic kickoff of Mardi Gras, now I'm declaring it. A lot of people have either a library story or a librarian story, where it's about a person or the place. I mean, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Robyn, if you don't mind going first, a good library or librarian or both story.
Can I go to childhood for this?
You can go wherever you want to go.
So I was one of those, probably not that surprisingly, that I became a writer, that I was one of those little nerdy kids that, everyone ran outside to play sports at lunch or recess, and I went straight to the library. And I think about it now as like having a tangible internet. I mean, you could just go through all those shelves and all these subjects and all these different stories. And it was like when I really, really fell in love with books and reading, and I can't remember how many we were allowed to take out. 8. I'd take out books a day or something, as like little quick books when I was young. And and I still remember so many books, and this is just such a weird story, but I grew up in a small town in northern British Columbia, and my most books checked out of the library were about shark attacks. I was obsessed with shark attacks. I think they really couldn't get me because I lived in in this interior.
Right. But there's also some degree of peril. You get in the water,
Right. And then I ended up marrying an Australian, and now I go to Australia every now and then, and I could be attacked by a shark. So
yes,
maybe it was preparation as well.
My youngest son really enjoyed the TV show on Netflix called The 72 Most Dangerous Australian Animals, and there's a lot of them, and sharks are number 3 if I remember correctly, because we watched it 5 times. So, Sandra, do you have a library or librarian story you want to share with us?
Well, I do. I grew up, my mother was a big reader. My dad was a writer. He was an editorial writer, but my mom was a big reader, and I have 4 younger sisters. And so the 5 of us would pile in the car with mother in the summer, go to the library, and we would all check out our maximum number. I don't remember if it was 8 or 5 or whatever it was, but we would take them, and that would last us about 3 days.
Yeah.
And then we would be back. And I read, all the Nancy Drew books. And at that time, Carolyn King took up the whole shelf. And when I got to the end, I would start at the beginning and check them all out, again. And the library was also where I discovered authors, and my mother let me read. I mean, she was having me read like Lloyd C. Douglas and Thomas Costain and all of these writers who wrote adventure stories, and Frank G. Slaughter, all of these people. And that's where I discovered writers, really. And once you read one, and I'm sure both of you can attest to this, when you find a treasure trove like that, then you want to go read the whole body of work. And I think that's why libraries are so important to people like Robyn and me who make careers out of this, that if they happen to pick up one of our books, then they're so thrilled to know there's half a shelf there. It's like finding buried treasure, really. So I really appreciate the way that so many librarians are advocates for authors. They say, have you ever read a, you know,
Mhm.
if you read her, you might want to read him. If you've read him, you might want to read her. And I think that's wonderful. Doesn't always happen at a brick and mortar store, and it certainly doesn't happen online. It's not that personal.
Mhm.
You don't feel the passion that
Mhm.
you can see in a person's face when they're talking about a book that they loved.
Yeah, the librarians in my life are people who are always trying to redefine themselves away from like the perception of the librarians. What do you do all day? Read.
Yeah.
And these are people of and by and for the book. You know, they might not have they might have to run a program. They might have to clean the bathroom. They might have to do clerical work and keep the place running. But what they want to do all day.
It's the love of it.
Yes.
The love
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, for sure. So my last question for both of you: your forces of nature in your own genre, and I want to make sure your own genre. So I want to make sure that I can ask you one of those readers' advisory questions. If there's a book that you're into, an author that you want to make sure that all of our listeners and watchers tonight can get their hands on, that's not your own, okay? And you can say each other's. It's great. But is there something that you're reading right now, or that's in your heart that you want to make sure that everybody during Library Lovers Month takes a special look at too?
Sure. Well, obviously, Sandra, you're the queen.
Oh.
I'm going to give a shout out to another friend of mine who is probably known to you both, Liz Nugent, who is an Irish writer, and she writes thrillers so dark. Like, I aspire to be as dark and twisted as she is, but she also has like these scenes that are so hilarious and so funny, and she's just one of my absolute favorites. And her latest is called Strange Sally Diamond.
Strange Sally Diamond?
Yeah.
Tell me her name again.
Liz Nugent.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
Sandra, who are we going to leave us with?
Well, you're really putting me on the spot here because I read so many genres.
Mhm.
But one book that just really stood out in my mind for the past few years is Kristen Hanna's Nightingale. And I just thought that was one of the best books I'd ever read. Also, Towles, A Gentleman in Moscow. Those two books were, to me, especially that second one, were so original.
Mhm.
It was such an original story.
Mhm.
And while it's really character driven, there still, was the plot. Is he going to ever get out of here? And that
Mhm.
suspense, and there was the romance. I just thought that book had it all. And everybody that I've ever, with no criticism to the publisher, and I don't even know who published it, but it was a terrible cover, I thought, but for the book that it was. And but the story was so amazing, and
Mhm.
it was just it was a book that stayed with me for a long time.
Yeah, that's funny because I got it from my wife for Christmas. We do the Icelandic book flood where you give
Oh,
you give a gift of a book only
Right.
on Christmas Eve. It's the only thing you get to open on Christmas Eve.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a nice little idea. I
I
mean,
love that. We ought to start that in the United States.
yeah. I mean, we're not Icelandic, mind you. But I sometimes lay in bed and I think about the Gentleman in Moscow. I do.
Yeah.
Like it's in my head. So
And I bought that for my husband for Christmas.
Really,
Trying
did
to
you?
get there.
that's great. That's great. I'm gonna have to.
Everybody who's ever read it, you start talking about it, and you
Mhm.
just, it's one of those that it was just so original, I
Mhm.
thought. So
No, I
even though
love
it's not in my genre, I still highly recommend that one.
Oh, that's perfect. What a nice way to end it. We have a consensus here, and then we have to reach out to the publisher and get him on the show sometime. So, yeah. All right. Sandra Brown, Blood Moon is coming out March 4th. Robyn Harding, The Haters in trade paperback is coming out March 4th. March 4th is a big day here. In the meantime, I want to remind everybody it's Library Lovers Week. I'm going to put the banner up on the screen here. Do my $5 a month team. $5 a month. Go to libraryloversweek.org. You get a sticker if you start a monthly donation, and we will put it to work making sure that the librarians in our lives, the doors are open. There's books on the shelf. That's our whole mission, vision, and values. So, Robyn, Sandra, thank you for being with me tonight, and thank you for sharing this with our readers.
wonderful to share the platform with Robyn. Truly.
Oh, lovely to meet you both. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was a treat. You two hold on for a second. I'm going to put you in the green room, and we're going to close this thing up. Good night, everybody out there.